This is a documentary about a trip I went on to visit some coffee farms in the state of Minas Gerais in Brazil earlier this year. I've been in the coffee industry for over 15 years now, and in recent times, because of the collapse in world coffee prices, the whole industry has changed as the issue of ethical business practices has come to influence consumer buying patterns. The dominant force in the UK market is the Fairtrade Foundation. Coffees that carry the Fairtrade mark are guaranteed to give a fair price to the grower, something not guaranteed to them in the jungle that is the world commodity market. I've always felt a little uneasy about what I see as an oversimplification of the market. The Fairtrade Foundation does a good job, but for one reason or another, a lot of coffee sold does not carry the Fairtrade mark. By implication, this suggests that it is unfairly traded. I raised these issues before I went with Daniel Wimberley, a leading local campaigner on trade justice issues, and also with a student, Charlotte Hunter, a keen proponent of all things fair trade. I was interested in their views and how they saw the whole movement.
I think the awareness that his trip will generate in terms of talking to actual producers and bringing back their stories is just so important. You know, to see people talking about the way they grow things, to see them in their home, and then to have it in your sitting room is the basis of awareness.
Well, I've met people from like the Windward Islands who grow bananas and have joined Fairtrade cooperatives and get like premiums so they can start building schools and they can send their children to school and pay for their own healthcare. And they came over when Jersey became a fair trade island to talk to people and to say thank you for supporting them.
I visited 3 different types of coffee farm. The smallest is part of a Fairtrade certified cooperative called Poço Fundo. At the other end of the scale is the farm Fazenda Monte Alegre. The total farm size is incredibly 1.5 times the size of Jersey, but is not Fairtrade certified. And finally a farm called doTERRA, whose mission is to be sustainable. This covers both environmental and social issues. I met with Enrique Assis Oliveira, who is one of the Fairtrade farmers on this cooperative, and asked him about the impact that the Fairtrade movement had had on his community.
Primeiro, para agregar valor ao produto, né? E também seria assim também com isso uma melhor condição de vida para os produtores, que a nossa vida é muito difícil.
How is the 5 cents premium per pound, which is given to the cooperative for growing Fairtrade coffee, how is that spent? What kind of projects is it spent on?
Part of these cents, of these 5 cents, come back to the families to improve the quality of life of their families, of all the cooperative members, dividing equally to each one. And the other part is invested in some social projects which they do back in the city and in the farms, such as a dental clinic and a computer school for their wives and kids, and such projects like those.
This computer room was built using the Fairtrade Premium. The local children use the room to learn about the internet and to study when they come home from school. There is a full-time teacher here who makes sure that the children get the best education available. This service is free, highlighting the benefits gained by the Fairtrade agreement. This building was also bought using Fairtrade money. Before, the cooperative had a small office in the outskirts of the city, but with money from the Fairtrade programme, a proper office and warehouse facility has now been developed. Well, today has been a fascinating day. Meeting the farmers from the cooperative firsthand has been a real eye-opener, I have to say, for me. It's what's so good to see is the actual direct benefit these guys are getting from us in the first world paying a premium of just 5 cents per pound for coffee, and that premium going directly back to them and being used to further benefit their farms and how they process what they do, and also their education and the education of their children. And like everybody in this world, we all have children, we all want to see them do better, and why not South American farmers as well? So clearly we have a direct link here between Fairtrade doing exactly as it says on the packet, as they say. Be interesting to see tomorrow how things go, because tomorrow we meet a farmer who does good things, we're told, but isn't Fairtrade registered. So the suggestion is, should we still be buying coffee from him? Let's find out tomorrow. On the trip, we also visited a major coffee processor, Esprinsol in Varginha. This company will take delivery of unprocessed coffee from the farms, sort it, and finally bag it ready for export or for use in the internal market. The price the farmer gets for his or her coffee is dependent upon the number of defects, that is, broken or black beans in the sample provided. The fewer defects, the better the price. This coffee is then sample roasted and tasted to establish at what quality level the coffee sits. As with everything in this world, you get what you pay for. This particular company processes some 600,000 bags of coffee annually, or around 36,000 tons, which gives you some idea of the importance of the coffee industry to the Brazilian economy. Low prices have a hugely detrimental economic impact. Just because you're getting paid less for your coffee doesn't mean that you can leave out the careful processing requirements or reduce your expenditure in the equipment required. The largest farm of our visit was Fazenda Monte Alegre. It is a vast farm which dates back to when Brazil was a Portuguese colony, and the labour for farms such as these came from the slave trade. The main farmhouse takes you back to another time in its scale and contents, and one can't help but be in awe of its beauty, whilst at the same time feeling uneasy about how so much wealth fell into so few hands. That aside, this is clearly a first world farm, and the chief executive, Jose Francisco Pereira, laid on a wonderful tasting of the farm's latest crop of coffees. It is at this point that you realise why coffee of this quality is being talked about in the same terminology as wine. The sample room is carefully laid out with coffee from every part of the farm. These are all carefully referenced. This enables them to continually monitor the quality of the coffee being grown in every part of the farm and identify the source of any potential problems. One example was the story told of one batch of coffee which in tasting turned out to have a fermented taste. They couldn't understand why this was the case, as all the other coffee from this area was fine. They went back through all the records and found the truck that had brought the coffee from the field to the central processing area and identified the driver. Upon questioning the driver, they found that the truck had broken down. This had resulted in a delay in the coffee berries getting to the processing area, and as a result, they begun to ferment. The procedure has now been changed so that in the event of a breakdown, another vehicle will come and immediately uplift the contents of the truck. This goes way beyond the passion for quality. It has become an obsession. I talked with Jose Francisco, who is the president of the Brazil Specialty Coffee Association, as well as chief executive of the farm, and started by asking him about the impact of globalization on world coffee prices.
In case of fair trade, one of the details, the request to be fair trade certified, the coffee producer must be small coffee producers or a family business production system. And so as big coffee producer, by this reason we are not allowed to get a fair trade certificate. But on the practical point of production way, we do supply, I would say, all fair trade requests and even more. Because all people that work with us and that are involved on the coffee production do have all standard of life, quality,
Yes.
improving of life quality that we allow them, and we bring them through training programs, through help in school.
Although my visit took place after the main coffee season had finished, we did manage at Guaxupé to see how the coffee which arrives at the processors is initially sorted and dried, and appreciate just how much human effort is required in the production process. The final farm of my visit was Doterra, which is some 7,000 hectares of land put over to coffee. It is part of the Pascual Group. The group is involved in selling car parts and tyres. The founder of the company decided 30 years ago that although tyres made them money, it also produced a lot of waste, which was difficult to recycle. In their newfound determination to protect the environment, they invested part of their profits into the agricultural company Doterra, which translated means from the earth. 20 years ago, the land was bought with the intention of producing high quality and sustainable coffee, and even 10 years ago, nobody knew much about them. The land was rejuvenated with the help of the University of Sao Paulo, who advised on issues of flora, fauna, water resources and environmental protection. The concept of working with nature rather than against her has meant that a nursery has been developed that not only produces new coffee plants, but also nurtures many of the plants that are found wild in the Cerrado. I'll let Isabel explain.
At the beginning, this area was devastated, so we spent 10 years just to recreate the Cerrado Mineiro ecosystem. How we did that? We first studied all the species that were originally from Cerrado. We started planting them, and once they were maybe mature, the species itself brought the animals.
Isabel then took us on a tour of the farm, showing us firsthand what sustainability means in practice. We saw vast piles of organic material, the residue of coffee production, all being carefully managed and at different stages of decomposition. Further recycling can be seen in the small workshop, where scavenged pieces of wood no longer required for their original purpose are utilised for new projects. On the social side, we saw the housing provided for farm workers, as well as a creche facility available for their children. In the main office building, there is a poster that reminds everybody of the need for education. There is clearly an awful lot of good work being done on the sustainability front. However, because it does not have the Fair Trade certification, it is not being widely recognised in Europe. We still have a long way to go. At the end of the day, we all have a responsibility. We want to ensure that the next generation have a world to enjoy, which effectively means that the buck stops here. Sustainability is not only about money and paying a fair price. It is the total package of social and environmental responsibility, which cannot be encompassed by the limitations of a single trademark.
Yes, we can some hot also.